All right, everyone. Thank you for your time this morning. This is Rick Murphy with AllNet. Thank you for joining us. We've got Jonathan from Samsung who's going to go over the 2017 line of TVs, including the QLED flagship panels, as well as the frame, which is an interesting product that Samsung released that has gotten an absolute ton of attention. Without any further ado, here's Jonathan from Samsung.
Thank you very much for that intro. I appreciate it. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me this morning. And as was discussed, we are going to be talking a lot about the lineup and really getting into what separates a 6 series from a 7 series, an 8 from a 9, what the big deal about Q is. And of course, we are going to spend about, I'd say 40% of our time on the frame by itself, so you can really deep dive into what it's about to really get you to understand what the hype is and why so many people really love this product and why it's really kind of struck a chord with consumers and distributors and resellers alike. So real quick, just a little bit about us. We have been #1 for the last decade plus, going on 11 years now, but the reasoning behind that is mainly because not only do we innovate in multiple categories, but we also provide products to the consumers that they really get a lot of use out of and that stand the test of time. So you'll see on the left-hand portion that we have a call out from J.D. Power from 2016 basically saying that 90% of Samsung TV owners who purchased a TV from us in the last decade say that their TV works like new. And we don't take that lightly. We really take that to heart and want all of you to know if you're stocking Samsung or you're thinking about it, that we really take pride in our product, and we really want to make sure that customers that do purchase or those of you that do stock our product will have working functional units for years and years to come. But enough about that. I want to talk to you about the complete TV methodology when it comes to Samsung's position in the market for 2017. Previously, we've talked about how picture quality is the only thing that matters in TV, and as long as it can do things like get to Netflix and Hulu and your basic apps and have some sound options, that's it. That's all you really need in a TV. However, that has been severely lacking, and that's why with 2017, Samsung has put together a focus on not just picture quality, but also other aspects such as the styling of the TV itself. How does it integrate into the actual end user's home? How easy is it and efficient is it to navigate that smart system? Those types of elements have gone into the research and development of these products. So you're going to see this complete TV thought process in every single one of the Samsung TV model SKUs for 2017. So it doesn't matter if it's an MU6 or if it's a Q9. You're going to see that thought process in the products. You're just going to see a little bit more of a complete TV as you move into the higher end Q series. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as we move forward. So here's the lineup if you haven't seen it before and this is the first time, then this is all the models that you're collectively seeing that we carry for 2017, starting with the MU6 and 7 that are going to get you into our UHD line, moving up into the 8 and 9 where we get into premium UHD. Anyone familiar with 2016 will remember our KS or SUHD series line, and that's really where the MU8 and 9 are meant to take off. They're meant to pick up that mantle, and they perform very closely with the SUHD series, as you will see. Then we have our brand new category of TV called QLED or QLED. That really starts off with the Q7 and goes all the way up to the Q9. F is for flat panel, C is for curved, with the Q8 being a curved only set. Now moving forward, this is really kind of the meat of the presentation, if you will, where what gets down into what is different between the premium UHDs and the regular UHDs and then the Q. This is essentially the simplified cut down version of that, where you can see if you're starting off in the 4K HDR world, that's where you step in at the MU6. Has the one remote for Smart System, which still has the capability to recognize your content, still has a microphone where you can tell the TV to go to Netflix, and it does so instantaneously. That's your stepping off point. Then you move into the MU8 and 9, where you start getting into, like I said, that SUHD level of performance. You're looking at the brightness of UHD Blu-rays, where you're starting to get into that mastery range. You're starting to get into the anti-glare panels. You're starting to get into that localized dimming to have better shadow detail and deeper black level. And more importantly, you're also, or just as important, you're getting into that color expression. So you're going to see 16 million shades on the MU6 and 7. And then as you move up, you're going to see a billion shades plus. And that's really a way that you can describe or divide Samsung TVs for 2017. And really moving forward, Samsung makes two types of TVs. One makes 16 million shades of color. The others make over a billion. And the great thing is that when you move from the MU8-9 into Q, the thing about QLED is that not only are you getting that billion shades of color, but you're going to have what's called 100% of the color volume, and we'll discuss what that means. If you look at the anti-reflective panel, we go from a single layer to a triple layer. It makes a huge difference, especially if you have those units side by side, especially compared with last year's. The anti-reflective panel cannot be stressed enough how great of a feature this is for most of your clientele that are going to be purchasing or considering stocking these TVs, because it makes it extremely versatile. And then, of course, you have the fact that Q does get up to twice as bright as the premium UHDs, which again allows it to thrive in that really harsh, bright environment that a lot of consumers like to place their TVs in. Now we're kind of going to go into the Q picture story a little bit, and we usually start off with clarity because that's what a lot of consumers are looking for, and it's a really easy jumping off point for your sales staff if they are going to be recommending Samsung as a TV choice for the brand. Now, clarity, most of the customers are looking for motion clarity. You talk to them about UHD, talk to them about 4K, they understand that for the most part. Hey, it's more dots on the screen, got it. But with motion, Samsung really does provide some of the best motion clarity in the industry. People really are concerned with how their sports are going to look. I mean, we just entered into, I believe, the last week of preseason for the NFL. So you have that kicking off point. And it's really a great talking point to mention. Not only does Samsung have some of the best motion, but if you're looking at, again, difference between the UHD series and premium UHD and Q, you're going to be talking about going from a motion rate of 120 down in the 6 and 7 to twice that with a motion rate of 240 with the 8 and 9 all the way up to Q. And that means that they're going to be seeing twice the motion resolution that they would have prior. So twice the amount of clarity when watching the things that they really love. They have a favorite football team or a baseball team, or even basketball for that matter. So all of that, favorite movies, whatever it is, that's really the key in for clarity for us. Now, as I mentioned before, I mentioned very briefly the 16 million shades versus a billion shades, and that's all well and good. But when I mentioned color volume, as you're looking at this explosion on the right hand, you can see how at first, before that animation took place, it was kind of watered down. It was kind of dissolved, and when you're talking about color, you really want those bright, impactful colors present even in big explosions, just to make them that much more impactful. When we're talking about color volume, Samsung is the only company in the entire world that is able to utilize 100% of that color volume, which means at any light level. So if you're watching dark content, maybe you're watching Alien Covenant and watching the monster sneak up on some unsuspecting people, and there's a little bit of color there. Or conversely, you're watching something that's outdoors. Maybe you're watching your favorite NFL team, and the sun's shining through on the stadium, and you can see maybe they're wearing their Color Rush jerseys that are all neoned out and crazy colored. You want to see that realistically. And color volume is basically saying that no matter what the light level of the content you're watching, Samsung is the only company, and QLED is the only model type that is able to provide that color accuracy and integrity at 100%, meaning doesn't matter the brightness, we're going to be able to cover it and maintain it. So that is our QLED color story. We just covered clarity before that. Now we're going to move on to contrast. So we're talking about what the deal is with contrast. Now I mentioned previously that the 6 and 7, that the MU8 and 9 have local dimming that is going to get you that better shadow detail. But I did mention also that is where you start getting into the anti-reflective film. And it's really important because our customers, modern day customers for the most part, they don't just watch in movie theater rooms. That is a very small niche group. Most say that it is less than 15%, even in the custom installation channel, if that is who your clientele are still looking at 15% or less when surveyed. Variety of circumstances during the day, at night, with light coming through, maybe not with so much, and that means that we have to have a versatile solution. When you're looking at the MU8 and 9, and you're trying to decipher between them because, hey, that Samsung guy said they're premium UHD, the MU8 and the MU9. Well, what's different between them? The MU9 is going to have the same 3-layer anti-reflection film as the QLEDs do. So that means the MU9 will have that same anti-glare property that the Q does. So if you have, maybe you only have an MU8 or a Q7 on display at a location. If you have access to an MU9, that's a great talking point to be able to spread to your team and let them know, hey, maybe we should at least have the option to order this SKU from AllNet or a distributor. Be a very good idea because a lot of customers are looking for that type of feature, but maybe they're a little bit turned off by the Q price point. It's a great in-between to have. Now, if we're talking about local dimming, I mentioned before shadow detail, and as you can see by the image of the cat, on the right-hand portion, looking at the screen, you'll see there's a lot more detail that can be found, whereas on the left-hand portion, above the eye, it's all dark. And that is really the difference between local dimming and either poor local dimming or no local dimming at all. And that's why when we say, at the MU6 and 7, they have software dimming. They don't get into local dimming yet. The MU8 and 9 is where you start getting into it. Within the Q series is really the best. So if you want the best shadow detail, like you can see represented on the right-hand portion with that cat all the way up to where you can see the details in the ear and keeping that surround very black, that's where you're going to want to go to Q. And with the Q9, that is where we have our best local dimming that we call the Infinite Array. And that's a dual-edge backlight system that uses the most LEDs that we've put into an LED-based TV, including our JS9500 and KS9800 series of years prior that were full array local dimming. So Q9 is awesome, awesome TV, brightest TV on the market, best shadow detail that we have, and that's really where it sits. You step down from that into the 7. Q7 is still going to provide twice the performance of shadow detail than the SUHD series TVs could. And if you step down from that into the MU8 and 9, that's where you're going to get into basic local dimming. So you're still going to have decent shadow detail and black level, but it's not going to be quite as good as the Q. And here's a little breakout. Again, stepping between the models because that's what's really important, is to be able to understand, why are we going to stock this model over that model, or what are we going to have as an explanation for the price point delta between an MU7 and an 8, 6 and a 9, etc. So that's really what you're starting to see. Now, again, I will stress just one more time, Q is where you get quantum dot. And we haven't really gone into detail about quantum dot during this presentation. That's really not what it's designed for. If you do have questions on the benefits of quantum dot beyond color, please feel free to reach out to your account manager or anyone on the Samsung training team. Be more than happy to talk to you about really the difference in what Quantum Dot provides over the other technologies that are out there, and why it's really the future of display. And moving forward, we're looking at our black step chart, where you can see again, we talked about the anti-reflective film coming in, where you get a single layer on the MU8, and then when you get to the 9, you get the same triple layer that the Q series has. And you can see where hardware dimming is local dimming, so that's really what that means. And then you step into the Q7, that's where you get into the advanced, and then the Q9 has the best. And it's also important to mention, how do these TVs perform in HDR? We talked about contrast, and that's really the heart of HDR, that expanded contrast, and it's also combining that with that movie cinema quality color that we all hopefully love. We're big movie buffs. I mean, I know I am. I love going to the movies. And just having that realism present. So just because the TV says, hey, I can do HDR, does not mean that it will do HDR, perform as well as another TV that can also perform in HDR. And the case in point we have here is the HDR performance you get out of an MU6 versus, let's say, an MU8. MU8 is going to be able to hit that 1,000-nit mastering range that UHD Blu-ray recommends. So those peak bright points are going to be able to be represented on the MU8 and above, whereas on the MU6, it sees the signal and says, hey, I got this. It's an HDR signal. I'm going to do my best to replicate it, but no, I can't play in your movie cinema color space. I don't have that billion shades of color, and I can only hit a little bit less than half of the peak brightness that you want me to. I'll still make a difference, but it's not going to be the same. And that's why we have to really emphasize that difference whenever we're stocking those SKUs and are training our sales reps or whoever is going to be talking to our clients about these products, is to really emphasize, if you want a good HDR experience, you're starting at the MU8 and moving on up into the Q series from there to the best. Okay, so that is Q Picture. We're going to cover Q Style, and then I'm going to touch on Q Smart before going and diving into the frame. We are good on time. I'm just doing a double check, making sure I'm not rambling on too much. So let's jump into it. So in talking about design, most of the clients that we deal with and the customers that are out there, they simply want a TV that's going to not have the hog share of the TV or the room that it's in, meaning it's not going to draw your attention because, oh, look, there are over 4 or 5 different cables coming from the TV to my different accessories, like we have pictured on the left. We want something clean. We want something that's going to be able to just sit there and act as a display, and then when we turn it off, it's not going to immediately draw your eye as an eyesore in the room, which is exactly why for 2017, Samsung has come out with a fiber optic cable we call the invisible optical cable, or the invisible connection, from our QLED series and frame series TVs that we will talk about momentarily. And that connection is the only thing that connects the TV to your sources. So with that, you have about 16.4 feet. It is a 5-meter cable that comes in the box with the TV, and it connects it to a one-connect box or a breakout box. And that breakout box, when you consider the fact that you can place it up to 16 and change feet away, that means that now you can place this box next to your cable box. You can put it in a stack with your cable box, maybe a Blu-ray player, gaming console, etc. And you can put all those devices away from your actual TV next to a corner and a power outlet, and you have that single transparent looking thin fiber optic cable going to the actual TV in the case of QLED or frame, and that's all. You have a power source that you have. If you have a clock outlet or a recessed outlet, you can place that right behind the TV itself in the lower hand portion, and you will have exactly what you see on the right hand side, where you have just a TV with one thin fiber optic cable coming out and nothing else. So that is key behind the design. Another aspect that you're going to see is the no-gap wall mount. This it is going to come with the frame itself that we're going to talk about soon, but it is an accessory that is designed for Q. So, and only Q, I should say, outside of the frame. And this no-gap wall mount allows the TV to sit exactly flush with the wall. That is something that no other wall mount will allow you to do with our TVs. This is something that Samsung has engineered specifically for the design of each of its Q series. Now, that no-gap wall mount is not only going to put your TV flush to the wall, it's also going to give you 10 degrees of downward angle. So if maybe your clients need their TV to be mounted above a fireplace or something of that nature, that's not a problem for our no-gap wall mount with the 10-degree forward tilt. And also, it has 6 degrees of side correction. So maybe one of your installers or maybe some of your customers would like the wall mount, but it takes them a little bit of time, or they're not sure about the drilling of the holes, or maybe after they've measured with their levelers, they feel like they got it right. Unfortunately, it didn't, and the left side is hanging a couple degrees lower than the right. Normally, with most wall mounting solutions, you'd have to take it off the wall mounting bracket. You'd have to look at the plate, adjust the bracket, trial and error, level it out. Okay, we're done after a few attempts. But with the no-gap wall mount, you can simply walk up to the actual TV after it's already mounted, and you can simply push up from the lower left-hand corner or down, whichever correction point you need, and the TV will, the mounting bracket will actually tension hold the TV in place. So you can just adjust it right on the spot. After it's level, you're good to go, and that is that. As simple as it gets. So for the design, again, just to recap, we spent all of our time talking about Q. However, you do also have that same SUHD look with the MU8 and 9, and we did add a One Connect Mini to that, so it is a smaller version of that breakout box, if you're familiar. The same one that was used in the KS8 and 9 series of last year. Same type of umbilical cable that connects it, not a fiber optic cable, and much thicker. With the MU8-9, you're also going to get a basic level of cable management within the actual stand or back plate of the TV if it's going to be wall mounted. A little bit less than what you get with Q, but it is there. So really quick refresher on those design changes. Now for Smart, the system that we have in place in Tizen, which is the operating system name, is really about ease of use. That is the key point of Smart in Smart TV. Why? Because that's what customers want. They don't want the TV to be smarter or appear smarter than they are in terms of how they're able to operate it. And that's exactly what we've approached it as with the mentality for 2017. You can see the Premium One remote that we have at the bottom middle, and that's not to say that the One remote for all the UHD series and Q series will do the same thing, because it will. The only difference is the appearance. So with that being said, the single One remote really is designed to control the majority of your input devices. And I say the majority because it will not control a receiver in terms of zonal control or sourcing control. You can turn it on and off with power and volume up and down, but that is a limitation. Everything else, if you're talking about a cable box, if you're talking about a gaming console or sound bar, you have complete control over using the included factory Samsung Smart Remote. So you can access the settings, you can go into the actual cable box menu, or the DVR if you have one of those set up, and you can pull that up. You can pull up the cable guide just by depressing the channel button. That's all you have to do, and it'll pull up the exact one. You can set your favorites and the channels as depicted in the upper right-hand corner underneath Live TV, where it has the Dodgers pitcher about to throw maybe a fast one. Not sure what pitching grip he's got on there. Maybe somebody can let me know if you're a big MLB fan or if you're into that. And also, you have ease of access in terms of your applications. So in every one of these little screenshots that we have of the Smart TV, you can see at the bottom portion we have this kind of tile system. And and that allows you to easily access Netflix or Hulu, HBO, whatever it is that you're looking for. You can put it down there, and you can go over to it, and you'll see once you access one of those tiles, above it, you will see what you have to offer. So if you've just finished watching Game of Thrones on HBO, and you're like, you know what, maybe I want to go back, it'll actually, as you go into HBO Go, and you simply select that tile above it, you will see what you last watched, and if you want to continue watching it, you simply select it, and it immediately starts. There's no lag time, no buffering, it immediately goes. And that's something that consumers really, really look forward to and enjoy out of our smart systems. Now, we do have access to IP control. Again, if you are a custom dealer, if you are a custom installation facility, or that is what your company likes to deal with or dabble in, we do offer Control4 as our IP control solution for the time being. We are going to add Crestron, Savant RTI, and URC in the immediate future, or relative future, excuse me, hopefully by the end of Q4. Now, again, just last stressor for smart and integration when it comes to UHD and Q, all of the UHD series and Q series have the same smart functionality. There's no difference in terms of processing power like there used to be in the past. There's no, oh, well, this remote has voice, but this one doesn't. That stuff is old news. Now everything is equal. The only difference is the design of the remote. With the Q series, you get that metallic premium remote. With the MU6 to MU9, you're going to get a black kind of curved remote. Not quite the same finish, but same in functionality. So that's all I will say on that. Now we are going to dive into the frame. And this is really where understanding exactly what separates the frame as a different type of TV. And not just a TV, it's really a lifestyle product. If we talk about the frame just as a TV, we're doing a great disservice to it because its main function is to display art and to be a piece of adaptive art that coexists in your home or in your client's home without you having to really service it or to go and adjust things. And that's not to say you can't, but it's really meant to do that on its own. So why is the frame different? What changes this from just being another wallpaper type of TV or Q-series type of TV that says, hey, I can display your artwork. I have some art. There you go. Look at me. I'm an art piece. And that's really something that comes down into smart sensing. You can see an example of it right here in this initial slide where on the left-hand portion we have a standard TV that is showing a piece of art, and it's bright. It just is. And when you have the frame, it really maps that down, not just in the panel appearance, but also in the brightness level that you can see on the actual display itself. And it does this automatically. And that is something that the eye really cues into, is when something is brighter, you can tell, hey, it's emitting light. That's not a stationary piece of art. So that is one aspect of smart sensing. And you get that within art mode. So the TV, the frame, is really divided into two personalities or two types. First is TV mode, and then the second is art mode. And you switch between them almost instantaneously with the press of the power button. Single press, that's it. You just press it down. You don't hold it. If you want to make it go to sleep, then you hold it. But if you press down that power button, you're going to switch between TV mode and art mode. And art mode is really where you get into the cool aspects of the frame. So smart sensing is going to automatically adjust to the brightness in the room to really fit the ambiance. It will also automatically adjust the motion settings. So there is a motion detector located on the frame next to the brightness sensor, and that's going to allow it to basically function as a piece of art when motion is detected. So for example, if you want the frame to be asleep and only turn on and really show the art when people are in the room, you can set it that way. And you have custom timers that you can set as far as how long after motion is detected do you want the frame to stay displaying art. and that is completely up to the end user. If you want to display it all day, every day, hey, that is perfectly okay with Samsung. You can do that. However, most of our clients do like that option, and we like talking about it because it gives that flexibility. Moving forward, we're going to talk about art, the actual art that you get as a purchasing consumer. If you were to purchase the frame right now, you would get 100 pieces of curated art right out of the box without having to do anything, and that is the Samsung collection. But we didn't want to limit you there. We wanted to allow you to have your own expression and to be able to put your own pictures and art and media on the frame itself, and that comes into play with my collection. And then at the bottom we have the art store, and the art store is really cool. It really is. I've messed around with it more than a dozen times at this point, and for a simple $5 a month, your clients have complete access, unlimited access to hundreds of pieces of art that are curated on a global network that Samsung is providing that is growing every day. And with that, you can preview the art, say, hey, you know, I like this one, let me check it out. Okay, it looks great, I'm going to go with it, or maybe I want to go with something else before I purchase this one. And that is really the interface that you're going to have with it. Is you have a $5 a month fee that you can pay, or you can do a pay-as-you-go type of collection where you can point out specific pieces of art, select that one, pay for it, download it without any subscription hassle. Now, the artwork styles, you can see on the very right-hand portion, this is where you can choose and really customize how you want your art displayed. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but you do have the option of changing the aspect ratio. You can do a full screen, you can do a matte, you can even do a triptych style collage as we have in the bottom portion of those examples, where you can take 3 different pictures as the bottom right-hand corner and make them into a triptych, or you can take the same picture and you can splice it up into thirds as is displayed on the bottom left. So a lot of customization options that we have right out of that. And to do it, you really need SmartView. So I can't stress enough how important the application for your phone and integrating that phone conversation of, you know, letting your clients know, or your sales reps or whoever it is that's going to be discussing the frame to your clients, as really vital. So you want that application. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. So if you have your main customer base is iPhone, hey, that's okay. There's no judgment coming from me. I might think that the Note 8 is going to decimate everything, but you know, I'm paid by Samsung, so take that with a grain of salt. But realistically, when you're looking at SmartView, when you first download it, you can see in the center screenshot that we've taken, that's what you're going to see the first time you link up the frame on the SmartView. And the only catch is that your mobile device that you're operating SmartView from and the frame have to have the same Wi-Fi connection. So if you're plugging it on the regular open network that maybe Xfinity provides, and your frame is on your own Wi-Fi in home, which is different, they won't see each other. So make sure it's on the same Wi-Fi network. After you've done that, you've connected up. That little icon that is highlighted with the yellow rectangle in the center screenshot, that is art mode. That is the art mode symbol. You'll see that multiple times, so definitely get used to it. It is kind of a piece of art on an easel. That's the appearance of it. And once you select that, that's when you're going to see the far right screenshot where you have Samsung Collection, My Collection, and Art Mode at the top, where you can see that with the black background. And it's going to default to Samsung Collection, and underneath that you're going to see over 10 different genres of art for you to select from. Now, when you actually, one thing you'll see moving back and forth is a little gear cog in the upper right-hand corner of that screenshot. And the gear cog is going to allow you to have advanced type of control. So as we're moving into this next slide that we have with the advanced settings, you can see that you can automatically adjust the brightness limitation of the frame, meaning that if the sensor is staying at a certain point in the room and you're like, you know what, with this piece of art, I don't mind if it's a little bit brighter. You can set that. I'd like to be a little bit darker. No problem. You can set it. And that is the limiter of the brightness that it'll hit. So it'll still dim itself down from that point, but you have limited the brightness output that it will sit at. And color tone, another great aspect. If you want a piece of art to look a little bit warmer, bring out some of those reds a little more, or you want it to look cooler and bring out the blues, no problem. You can select that right from the app. And then I mentioned that sleep timer where you can actually adjust that motion detection, tell it to go to sleep after a certain amount of time. You have customization options from 15 minutes all the way to 4 hours with multiple times between. And then you have night mode. And night mode is a great feature because it allows you to just simply set the frame up, and I don't have to worry about turning it off at night because guess what? With night mode on, I turn off the lights, the frame detects that there's no light in the area, and it automatically shuts stuff off. And then you can see a couple of the other features that we have with the motion detector sensitivity. You can adjust that. And last but not least, we have sound mirroring, where you can actually set the frame up as a Bluetooth speaker while you're displaying your art. So if you have some cool tunes that you want to pump out of the frame, it does have 4 speakers built into it that are pretty good for considering it is a TV-based chassis. So that is an option. Now this is kind of a more hands-on how to set up the art, but we do like to talk about this as long as we have time, which it appears that we would. And this is really what gets into the kind of the personal feel of opening up your phone, connecting it to the frame, and then saying, you know what, I want to put my own photos, I want to put my own media on the frame and customize it. So after you've gone into art mode, instead of Samsung collection, you're going to select My Collection underneath that black background, as you can see depicted on the far left screenshot. Once you select My Collection, you can scroll down and you can see you have your different file folders. It is imperative for your iPhone users that once you download the frame and, once you download SmartView and you first open it up, it is going to say, hey, do you want to give this app permission and access to your media that it's requesting? You have to hit yes, otherwise you will never see your folders. You won't see your media folders. So very important there. But once you do, you're going to be greeted with the screenshot in the middle. You can select an image. Here on the far right, we have Abraham Lincoln's house that one of our training managers was snagging on a recent vacation. So once you've selected that, you're going to see a few different options. Now, you have 3 dots in the upper portion next to the TV icon that you can see. And when you select those 3 dots, that is when you're going to get the drop-down menu that you have on the far left screenshot. So again, this is moving from left to right in terms of chronological order. So we've selected 3 dots, and then we have matte and collage. This is really going to allow us to customize how we want the layouts to look in addition to the matte color, as you can see in the following 2 screenshots. So if we hit matte, we can adjust the aspect ratio, we can choose full screen, we can choose a matting type, we can choose to splice it into those 3 forms that you can see there in that rectangle that's highlighted of those 3 rectangular forms of a triptych. But we're just going to matte it for now. So we select our matte color. We have over a dozen different matting options for color. And once we've done that, we can view it on the frame. Now I do want to point out that we can actually preview what we've done at every step of the way, so that if we don't like anything, we can go back and adjust it. But once we do it, no problem. We're going to set it, as you can see in that final screenshot, bottom yellow rectangle. And then we can view on the frame to see what our artistic creativity has allowed us to display. Now, if we want to collage it, because we did see collage there next to the matte option, after we hit those 3 little dots, the collage is going to allow us to select 3 different images, and it will allow us to have a different layout, again, moving from left to right, that you can see. You can do a square option. You can do more of a portrait style, as our user has decided. And then you choose your matting color, same idea. You set it, and then you view on the frame. Now, once you have set these images from your own device, they are stored on the frame. So over on art mode, where you can see that the far left screenshot, you have photos on the frame. So these are photos that have already been saved on the frame, and they are now under my collection. So they will show up in the app, but you don't need the app. After this point that you've set your images the way you want them, you can still go in and customize the color of the mat. You still have that option without using the phone at all. So the phone is really a kicking off point that allows that transfer of media to take place. The frame has about 2 gigs of internal storage that it has, which will allow you to save hundreds and hundreds of pictures in high resolution. Another option that you do have in terms of getting that art, if you are not an artist or a fantastic picture taker, is you can go to Google and you can download some HD art. If you just do a simple search for HD art, they do have resolution search filters in the actual interface. 1920 by 1080, aka 1080p, great art resolution. Definitely recommend talking to clients and maybe downloading some of it yourself so that you can show on any frame units that you have. Which reminds me, you do have the option that AllNet is working on for frame demo units, meaning that you can actually have it's not just a frame by itself, it's a kind of a sectional, if you will, that has the frame. It's going to have examples of the frame detachable bezels. It's going to talk a little bit about the invisible connection, the remote, etc., and Smart View. So all of that, it's a great demo cutout piece that will allow you to have the actual frame and some POP around it to help talk about the frame. And a really great high-end demo piece that I believe if you have access to it, you have the capability of getting it, definitely follow through with that, because it makes a huge impact once you actually see the frame, especially if you can interact with it, understand what it's about. It's a night and day difference from that versus just hearing someone like me tell you about the features and tell you about, hey, this is what it's capable of doing, and it's an awesome piece of technology. So that's all I'll say about that. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how the frame works as a TV, because that would be ignoring the other portion of it. So the frame as a TV, and I'm going to bring this slide back up where we talked about the kind of the divide between the different series. The frame sits in between the MU7 and the MU8. Now, the again, the MU7 is going to be 60 million shades TV, and the MU8 is going to be a billion shades, but we have all these other aspects that kind of separate it out. The frame will do a billion shades of color. The frame also has the capability to render HDR, but it does not have 1,000 nits of brightness. We decided to do that just out of longevity for the frame, in addition to different reasons. If that client does want to run art 24/7 and does want to max it out on brightness, we didn't want to have any issues with energy consumption, which, by the way, is extremely low on the frame. Definitely not an issue there. Same with burn-in. There's no issue with the image retention. Our engineers have quality tested and tested again with the frame and found no issues there. But there are a few changes between the MU7 and MU8 that the frame does get. So when you talk about local dimming, the frame is going to be more on the MU7 side of the house, where it's going to have software dimming instead of hardware local dimming. Does not have the same type of panel that the MU8 does. But it will have a motion rate of 240. So again, very capable TV in terms of TV capability or performance. More along the lines of an MU8 than an MU7, but really just doesn't have that brightness and doesn't have that same anti-reflective panel. So with the frame, you have a lot of accessories. So it's really important to kind of separate what you get in the box versus what you can purchase as an accessory. And that also helps those of you that are going to be stocking the frame know what you can stock as an accessory. So right out of the box, what you're going to get with the frame Obviously, you get the smart sensing, so the ambient light detection and adjustment, and then the motion detection and adjustment. You're also going to get the Samsung collection, which you can see there again. It's 100 pieces of art. You get the no-gap wall mount that I mentioned before that is highlighted in the second from the top picture, and that's going to be in the box. It's about $150 to $160 of regular MSRP value, so that's going to be a great value in the box right away. You are going to get the invisible connection, which is that fiber optic cable, with the full One Connect box, so that is going to be available to you right from the get-go in the box. And you're also going to get the One Remote, which is pretty much identical to the MU series, except it is white. And where the power button resides is that icon for art mode, letting you know, hey, if I want to switch from TV to art, I just have to push this button once. But if I really want to turn the TV off, I just hold it for a few seconds. So that's what you get in the box. What you can add are those customizable frames that are really awesome, extremely simple to swap out. They are magnetic. So they simply really just magnetize themselves and are able to snap onto the frame. Anyone can take these off and put them on in a matter of a minute, maybe even less if you're a little bit speedy. But the installation or removal of these frames is extremely easy. There's no adhesives, there's no hardware, there's no hidden screws or anything like that you have to access. And it's very clean. So you have 3 different colors. 2 of them are stains, walnut and oak. And then, actually walnut has been changed to beige wood, and I believe. So you have those 2 different stains, that darker and then that lighter type of wood stain. And you have white, which doesn't look like a wood stain at all. It's just straight up white. And then you have the studio stand. This studio stand really allows the frame to look like a piece of art, an art canvas on an easel. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. And you also have up to, it's an extension piece that really allows the invisible connection to be the longest that we've produced yet, which is about 50 feet, just shy of that. So you do have the option of purchasing this. The MSRP on it is around $300, but if you consider what that saves, if, again, you're custom installers or you have to run longer cables, or you're used to having to run that length HDMI cables, if you're looking at 3 or 4 high-end HDMI cables versus the price of the longer invisible connection and then a few shorter HDMI cables that are like 1 meter, for example, the value is inherent. And then finally, you can add on to the Art Store subscription. You can have your clients set themselves up with that account, or you can set it up for them, or simply the pay-as-you-go option. So these are all accessories. And that is really all we have on the frame. I would just highlight again, this product, a lot of people think that, or originally think when they first hear about it, oh, this is a niche product. This is only for, those big city type of customers like LA, New York City, just the really art house type of clients that have a really upscale type of living style. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The frame applies to anyone and everyone. It's really targeting that customer or those customers that don't want, quote unquote, another TV. They're looking for a product that, it can function as a TV, but they really want to show off their own artwork or the artwork that's on the TV in an elegant fashion that's not too overstated, and that really blends in well with the home. So definitely think about that. Frame sizes, you have a 55 and a 65-inch selection as current. We are looking at adding a smaller size in the range of 40 to 43 in the near future, but you will hear more updates from that from Allnet as we go on. So that is all I have for the presentation. Thank you very much for spending your morning with me, and I hope you found this webinar informational and very helpful as you decide what you're going to carry, or maybe looking into selecting specific SKUs down the road.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. We're going to go ahead and end the webinar now.